Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to F1 Manager. This is episode 16. I'm on a bit of a time crunch today. I do think I have just about enough time to get through this one. Maybe regularly, maybe a little rushed. We'll see how it goes, but I'm still planning on trying to get through a couple of races in the meantime, as we're going to be heading to Italy and Emilia, Romagna here in about 11 days' time. Costly upgrade, but most of our car development facilities, we did some initial upgrades with those, and then now they've sat because the next upgrades get a lot more expensive. We haven't necessarily had the finances for it, but now the refurbishment costs alone really dip into what you can then do from there. So it's generally easier to make an upgrade than it is to refurbish most of the time until you get to that highest level, really. And so we're going to dip in and spend some money on our simulator. 12 million, which we only have 17.2 right now. That's costly, but that's going to give us some healthy improvement to our future upgrades once this is complete. It's going to take 2 months, so it is going to be a while, but we're still at 5 million. I think we should be okay in the short term. For the first time, we are only seeing medium confidence, but that is still job secure for the time being. We're going to have to keep an eye on that one long term. We also have a driver development update. Logan Sargent, now a 78 overall, is cornering is +1, overtaking and reactions +1. So the reactions and cornering will both make him faster. And again, Flourish, not getting speed upgrades, but getting upgrades in other departments. Her adaptability is a +2, meaning her ability to handle changing conditions, as in wet weather or drying conditions on track, is her best attribute already, and it just got better. I'll take it, but it's not the path that we have her training on right now. Her smoothness goes +1. That's not a bad one because she is pretty harsh on the tires. Our pit crew training for the month, we're going to see the smallest of decreases across the board in chance of mistake. Also a small decrease in terms of the overall pit stop time. And for the first time, I can't get it to keep us in the well-rested category. I can't get any gains on car building. A single session will see us have a 0.25% drop. I'll take that over the others. I don't want to see a negative there. I'd rather see a 0.25% gain, but there's no one session to spare to make it happen. Apparently, you really need to have at least 2 per month. But it's a busy month for us. We've got really 4 weeks here and 3 race weekends, so it's tough. You head into another one. That'll turn into a break for the next. But either way, difficult stretch. Busy 3 race weekends in a row. Our race simulator upgrade is complete. This is going to help Flourish develop a bit faster. Now a level 4 of 5. That last upgrade is also only 8 million. We've had the turn of the month, so we do have a okay balance now at 10 million. We can almost afford it, but not quite. I'll wait a little bit. Wait until we at least have a little more. I don't want to get down to the last 2 million and have something happen. So 5 million's already really pushing it. I don't really want to go below that at this stage. So we'll wait a little bit longer here, but we will absolutely upgrade that race simulator as soon as possible.
Welcome along to Italy, and welcome along to Imola. Just outside Bologna in northern Italy, Imola hosts the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, named after the region it sits in. Surrounded by woodland, this iconic track is rich with Formula One history and the legends of those who raced here.
We have nearly witnessed a miracle, but not quite. Logan Sargent, who was only able to beat the Alfa Romeos. Raw pace alone, we are just not there. I mean, we're a good half a second off of Lewis Hamilton, which, okay, fine, that's not the greatest example of an opponent, but, here's the next 2 teams ahead of us. 8 tenths, 7 tenths, 3/4 of a second behind. But then here we are with the Alfa Romeos. 2 tenths. Quarter second behind for Albon. Just a further tenth for Bottas. 3/100ths of a second. 3/100ths is the gap to Flourish. Not bad. Not bad, especially considering that Logan Sargent's not way up ahead of her. The gap between the pair, just over 0.4 of a second. That's all.
Here in Imola, the drivers are ready to take on the 63 laps of the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. The Williams driver, their attention purely on the race now.
Starting in 20th, the points are a long way off. Can they get a good start here and push for a respectable finish?
And it'll be exciting to see just what will happen here today. This is it, the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
It's looking more and more evident that we can beat one team on a regular basis. But we need to beat two on a regular basis to get an okay evaluation from the board. And that's the challenge. They want us to beat 3. They'll accept 2. They don't accept less. So just beating the Alfa Romeos is just not quite enough for us as we push early on in this one. Starting from P17, P20, it's not a great start. Not a great position to be in. And we're going to need a little help to beat the AlphaTauris or the McLarens today. Started, we're going to have to back off soon before we begin to overheat. We have opened up a little bit of a gap over the Alfa Romeos for Sargent. And we have underfueled by those 2 laps to help preserve the engines. And Florsch has overtaken Albon naturally. No help, nothing. Just on merit. That is so fantastic to see. Probably not going to hold it. Probably going to get passed up eventually. But seems to have better pace here than some of the other tracks we have been at. And in fact has pulled away from Albon by 1.5 seconds. Now on lap 10 of just 63. It's a short race here. The top 4 are, make that top 5, are pulling away. Leclerc caught up in the field a little bit. I don't know if he started with a penalty or something or just struggled with qualifying, but Gasly is falling back from that main group. Sargent, not too far behind that group, though his little train is a little bit off of it. Zhou leading that one, a couple seconds behind Tsunoda and Norris. Sargent has not been able to make any overtakes until just now he gets around Piastri. So good timing on that one here on lap 13. We are aiming for the 1-stopper. There could be some drivers that are going to go for a 2-stopper on this one. The softs would definitely be a prerequisite of that, and there are some guys on the softs, but some of them could be aiming to go soft and then hards all the way and trying to get a little bit of an undercut going. But meanwhile, Florsch still ahead of Albon 16 laps into this race. Bottas also way off the pace, so you can see just how slow they are, and Florsch able to hang with the 2 Alfa Romeos today is so cool to see. Russell with a spin on turn 17 there at the end of the lap, and it drops him down the order back there with these guys. And we have pulled away from Piastri now with Sargent. So Sargent on the back of the AlphaTauris and right there with Norris as well. So we still have a shot today to maybe finish 7th. The Haas car is also just right there. And that's the edge of the points. Now you figure at some point Russell's going to make his way through, but he doesn't have great pace. Hamilton's just right up there with Leclerc, not that far ahead of us. That being said, Russell still has every chance, every opportunity to recover, but not necessarily a given that he will. Sargent battling it out with Zhou for the moment, and will he be able to get by him? Well, let's give him a little extra nudge. See if he can complete that overtake here at the end of the lap. Both with DRS. Straight line speed advantage goes to the AlphaTauri. Leclerc, Piastri both into the pits. Again, we're going to challenge. We seem to have an edge on cornering, but not straight line speed. As for our fuel situation, we had pushed in those first couple of laps before backing off. We have recovered about 0.6 at this point. So those 6/10 that we have gained, it's not going to add up. It's what, 20% compared to what we have right now. We're a fifth of what we need to recover, and we are not quite to the halfway stage of this race. That's about 23 laps there. You add 23. We are going to have an issue unless there is a safety car, a virtual safety car, red flags, anything of that sort will help us out later on.
Window is open.
Right now, we're starting to see those big splits in the field as a lot of drivers are pitting. A lot of drivers are pitting much earlier than expected. They are going onto the hards though, so that being said, we may end up seeing ourselves get undercut a little bit here. But for the moment, Sargent all the way up to P9. This will help us out late in the race, but could hurt us over this stretch of a few laps here on lap 28. Of course, you can see just the tire wear is not great, but she has kept up. She is still ahead of Albin this whole time. 28 laps. She caught past a car and has remained ahead of them. And this is her lap to pit. Just a little high on the tire wear, but was necessary to try to see it out. Plenty of a gap between the two. Easy to double stack. At the moment, P9 and P15. Flourish. Good enough on pace to be ahead of a handful of cars at this moment. Also, she's got Hulkenberg in between now, coming on fast. Piastri coming on fast. Sargent down pit road. .386. Pretty decent stop. Will come back out on track behind the AlphaTauris and ahead of one of the Haas cars anyway. And here is Flourish. 2.420. Not as good of a stop, but Bottas has not pit, or already has pit. We are 5 seconds behind. It's Albin who has not pit yet, and Albin was falling off the pace. So Sargent rejoins in P14. 2 more cars pitting right now, but Perez and Gasly are not a threat, or were not a threat to Perez and Gasly. So actively we are P14 ahead of both Alfa Romeos, ahead of one Haas car. No idea what happened with Hulkenberg, why he is suddenly so far down. And then Piastri, who we had pulled away from, is right there. And as we are up to temperature, we are right behind Magnussen and have a chance to compete and possibly beat him. That would put us ahead of 2 teams. And then we are just 4 seconds behind the AlphaTauris, who pit pretty early. That could be a problem for them in the later stages. Maybe, just maybe, requiring an extra pit stop as well. Meanwhile, the fuel now at 2.7. That's my concern going forward, is trying to get that right, as we are just about halfway here. And we've recovered almost 1 kilogram, almost, meaning we're looking at needing 2.7 still. So naturally, we can expect to recover 1. If we get lapped, well, depends on what a lap entails. Let's watch with Sargent here in a moment. We'll watch from here what a lap time entails fuel wise. There's the start finish line, 49.3. 49.3. There is Norris, who has just pit, comes out just ahead of us. So Norris, a late pitter, still working on getting his tires up to temperature. We were 49.3. We come around the final corner at 47.7. So 1.5, 1.6. If you get lapped, that's going to take care of that 1.7 deficit that we are encountering. So how is the getting lapped situation looking? Well, Flourish now well ahead of Albin, almost 5 seconds ahead, and Albin is about to experience blue flag. So for Flourish, I think we are totally fine on the fuel. We can expect to be lapped, and the fuel will then be just fine to reach the finish. Sargent, only half a lap down, with just over half a race run. It's going to be iffy. Virtual safety car will lock down a number of laps and lock down the gap. making it that much harder. We don't know quite what pace is going to look like here, there, somewhere. Russell making up ground, but still too far back. I think we could probably stay ahead of Russell. Piastri might hold him up and is getting further and further behind us. He's already 13 seconds down by the time he got up to temperature. So Piastri, not a threat. Russell, maybe, but probably not. Hulkenberg, not quite sure what happened, but same thing. I think we're going to beat those three. Bottas, no problem. Albon already lapped by a number of cars. Florsch, her time is coming, but again, it's going to put her right on fuel, so no big deal. We'll take that. She's having a heck of a race here, and for the time being, 5 full seconds ahead of Albon. 2 more cars that are going to have to go around her blue flag wise. That's going to cost her a couple seconds, but she's a good 3.5, maybe 4 seconds ahead of Albon. There it is. They go around. Stroll, Leclerc eventually will obviously make their way past her as well, but for the time being, 3.8. 3.8 is her gap. Really impressive drive from her today to be not last place. Sargent did lose contact with Norris. Magnussen, though. Magnussen got around Norris, but we are 3.5 seconds behind. Tire wear is going to be a big thing to keep an eye on. Obviously, our ceiling, the highest I could expect us to get, is 10th. But our pace seems to be a little bit slower, so probably right where we're at, 14th, unless there's a mistake from any one of these drivers ahead of us, which we could really use that favor. Nice big gap behind, but it's that one ahead that's worrying. We're about 7 seconds off the top of that. So here we are. Everyone is going for the one-stopper strategy. So there is no variance here. Now the big deal is who might need to pit again or is going to be really off the pace late. We'll start with Leclerc. 66%. Tsunoda and Shows. They did. They went very early, and they are suffering for it. Magnussen also pretty dang early. Hulkenberg, Piastri, all. Hulkenberg, Bottas, likewise. That's a lot of drivers. I'd say those in the mid-70s should be fine. We pit later. It's showing. It's making a difference. Florsch, though, couple percentage points behind her teammate. That's going to be a concern late. That is going to be a concern late for her, that she might be off the pace like others. But we're talking about her being off the pace when she's at 72. All of these others ahead of her, every single one of them is at least 5% further off, or damn near a dozen. Russell finally gets around Piastri, though still fighting for that. And we've got that advantage, not Norris, but we've got that advantage on 3 of these 4 guys just ahead of us with Sargent. So we still might have a decent chance of coming back at them, especially if the front of that group is already starting to drop their pace. We could slowly close up and make it a bit of a trade, and in the final laps might be able to make a push. Meanwhile, though, that whole getting lapped thing, it's definitely not half a lap anymore, but it's still a ways down. I do think we are going to have to do some lifting and coasting with Sargent here at some point. For Florsch, she only needs another 5/10. I think she'll get that in the last 16 laps, no problem. Norris has made his way past this group, so I think he's going to end up pulling away. Meanwhile, though, we have closed up on this group, just over 1 second behind, so we're going to start getting the benefit of DRS here soon on lap 51. The first thing we're going to have to do, though, is to get the fuel right, because after 3 laps we've only gained 1/10. Ooh, suddenly 2 seconds behind. What happened there? Bad lap from Sargent. Very bad lap. Or the Norris effect, as Norris is pulling away and speeding up. Yep. Norris is leading the group, pulling away. 10 laps to go. 2 kilograms to get right.
Copy that.
I can expect to gain maybe 3/10 the rest of the way is all. Meaning we've got that full lap to go here on recovering fuel. So Sargent, almost, so close. Norris getting past those drivers has really hurt us. He has now gotten some separation on Tsunoda, so maybe with him out of DRS, we'll see their pace drop off once again. But at 3.5 seconds behind, we can't push and get up there and expect anything to happen. We have got to get this fuel right before it's too late. Otherwise, we're going to run out before the end of the race. The sad thing is right now, realistically, we're only ahead of a single team. We've got to get Magnussen to make it 2. We got to get Sonoda to make it 3. Meanwhile, Florsch, 5.7. She's pulled away from Albon by a couple of seconds. And just 9 behind Bottas. Not that far. All 3 of them are well off the back. But even then, we're looking a lot more racy, a lot more competitive. And all the while, Sargent isn't ahead of any other teams as a whole. Just a few individuals. A couple seemingly that made mistakes, and only one other car on merit. Definitely still quite a ways behind her actual teammate, right? We're looking at, 10, 30, 45, 53, 54-ish seconds. It's almost a minute down. It's almost a second a lap. Down to 1.3. We have done a lot to get that fuel right here. We've already knocked off nearly a kilogram in just, 3 laps? So a few more laps and we'll just about be there. Maybe 4. But that's going to leave us in a difficult place to try to catch up to these guys. 2.6 behind. We don't have the battery to push. But how bad will their pace be down the stretch? We're looking at 46, 48, 41. Sonoda is dropping backwards with that 41. Could still be on. We're at 50, though. Whole field looking pretty weak. Other than Norris, and that's why Norris is pulled away 4 seconds ahead. Magnussen has gotten around both of the AlphaTauris now. Probably a good thing for us that the AlphaTauris are not suddenly threatening somehow, some way, but we are closing that gap. If Sonoda gets out of DRS range of Zhou, that's going to make him easy pickings for us if we can get up there. Can we still get ahead of those two and add a second team to the list, giving us a success on the day? I don't know. It's getting close. It's getting close, folks. Our window, both on the fuel and the tires, it's tight. Florsch pulls away by another second over Albon, though. And has a nice window behind her. She doesn't have to worry about getting lapped anytime soon. Or by any more cars, that is. 1.9. 1.9 for Sargent. And the fuel, I was hoping would be a little closer at this point, but it's almost there. 0.6. I'm going to do about a half a lap here for Florsch, because 1.6 to 1.7 is where she needs to be, and there's only a few laps to go, so let's get her down to 1.5. Call it good. Sargent down to 0.5 and down to a second and a half. So close. So close. But also really close to the end of the race. Boy, oh boy, could we use 2 more laps on this. 0.4 now, but still a second and a half back. Sonoda caught up to Zhou, so that's why we dropped back a little bit. He ended up getting DRS. He gained that 1/10, got DRS, closed him up by 7/10. So we, instead of getting DRS, are still right there. But now we're coming up on both of them. But here's the problem with coming up on both of them. The one behind is going to have DRS. 0.2. Oh, just over 1 second back. And of course that DRS element just adds 0.2 every time they hit the zone. Okay, you know what? I think we can just about make it that last 2 laps here. Inside a second. Aggressive. Keep closing that up.
Can you bring the pace up, please? Copy.
7/10. It's right on board. I love that visor cam, but y'all know that it's already too loud the way that's set up. Okay, go standard until we get a little closer.
Noise to manage the tires.
Conserve until we get to 0.
Copy.
Half a second.
Leave core increased, please.
It's Joe ahead of us now.
Copy.
Can we get them both, though? Can we get either of them? We're so low on time and ability to do any sort of pushing. Balanced. It's at 0.
We look at reducing the
Aggressive.
lift and core.
Copy.
Okay, the leaders are coming behind us. They'll start their final lap, which means we have just under 2 laps to make this happen. 2 laps to make this happen, and we're already coming up on Joe now. Can we get a little push in? When necessary. Signs begins the final lap.
Reduce fly core roll.
Copy. I can't do
balanced.
anything.
Come down, mate.
First
You're
attempt
good.
has failed.
Would like to
Flourish
repeat the light core
still
everywhere.
ahead of Albin. That's already a win, but man, oh man. What can we do here? Full attack.
So we
Are we on the
race
back stretch? Yes. One last chicane here, and then you'll get the double left-hander.
We're on tire management.
Here's the double left-hander. Here's the push. And here's the attack.
Reduce light core overall.
Copy.
Come on, come on, come on.
Final lap.
Come on, you gotta get him into the braking zone. He lost DRS and we still can't get the overtake done. Come on, into the braking zone. Yes! Up the inside. 13th. But that's still not gonna meet our requirements.
We want to leave core, please.
Copy.
Okay, we are negative, so we've got to work on
Focus
that.
on your tires.
1.4 is fine. Flourish.
Yep.
Flourish will finish soon. Sainz has won ahead of Alonso, then Verstappen, Perez,
He's taken the win.
Russell on down have been lapped. Sargent remains on the lead lap, something we have not done hardly at all. And we have a positive delta. There we
Reduce
go.
the lift
Push
and core.
on. Push
Copy.
on. Less than a second behind, but from 8/10 down, I don't know where we could do anything here with just one last chicane and the 2 left-handers to end the lap. 5/10. 5/10 behind Sonoda. And this is only for a slight acceptable day. 13th is just not going to be enough. Full deploy from here. Push from here.
So go in lap.
He's got DRS. He's 2.6 behind. Nope, that's not open. But we do. We come up just 3/10 short of an okay day. 13th, and it's going to be a failure. Flourish gets 19th, though. That's a big success.
What a
Just finished a side pod design that gives us better top speed. That's about it. The underfloor design is 4 days away from being done. We're into a new period, so we do have new work to get on with. Project is going to be a front wing project that's going to get us a bit of low speed, little bit in the other areas, 1% in the dirty air tolerance, and will take just about 1 month to finish. Our second upgrade of the period, and I'm limiting this, I'm trying to go big upgrades one at a time, save some money because the manufacturing, the cost of everything is intense, and we're trying to put as much as we can into the infrastructure while figuring out how to be competitive in the meantime, in the short term. But for this rear wing upgrade, we're going to get more top speed. 1/10 of a kilometer an hour is not a lot, but it will make a difference. DRS effectiveness going up a fair bit, low and medium speed getting a bit of a boost, and some extra dirty air tolerance as well. No high speed for this one, but that's okay. At least it's neutral. These upgrades are not on the car yet and will not be for a little while, but as we head to the grandest race of them all, as we head to Monte Carlo, we're a little bit off top speed wise. We're definitely off on acceleration. Our DRS effectiveness is about 4% behind grid average. Low speed, medium speed, a little behind. High speed, a little ahead. Dirty air tolerance is almost there now compared to everybody else, but brake cooling and engine cooling are a little ways behind. That total extra weight portion, we're already towards the high end of the grid on that one. We are definitely having to replace parts semi-frequently, but that mixed with the rate of upgrades so far is balanced well, I think.
Welcome along to one of the biggest weekends in motorsports, here in Monaco. Cars have been racing through Monaco's streets since 1929, and this weekend is no exception, as we get to watch the new generation of world-class drivers take over Monte Carlo. Monaco is famous for its many narrow twists and corners, from the brake-heavy Le Rascasse to the treacherous Sand of Ott. There are no proper straights to speak of, and it's extremely hard to overtake here. It sounds like simple advice, but getting up as high on that starting grid as possible is the best plan of attack. Monte Carlo are ready as the drivers prepare for the 78 laps of the Monaco Grand Prix. There's a lot of talk about that man, Nico Hülkenberg.
Starting P10 puts them in the right place to get some points, but there's still a lot to do.
Right, let's get to it then. It's time for one of the most exciting races in the world. This is the Monaco Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
And we're racing in Monaco, and yep, it's going to be an interesting one. Qualified 19th and 20th. Sargent seemed to have better pace than that, but did not qualify well. Florsch, I saw how bad her pace was in practice. Did not bother to upgrade her components. She's got a decent gearbox, but otherwise she's got her oldest, most worn engine and ERS. We're going to save those for another day. I've also opted for a totally different strategy in which we are going for hards to mediums, and then if she can hang on for a little while, which it's not going to happen, she's going to end up getting laps sooner rather than later. But if she were to hang on for a little while, she would set Sargent up, who's also going to go for the hard to medium strategy, because we've got nothing to lose. Otherwise, overtakes are so hard here. You can just see how quickly Florsch is dropping off the back here. But with Sargent, he's our hope. Almost had Albon a couple times here on the first lap, but has not been able to get around him. Can he get him with our, well, it's no DRS right now, so probably not. Which means we're going to settle in faster. I underfueled by 3 laps, so that's going to be something that's going to warrant keeping an eye on. It just looks like it's not our day based on the qualifying of P19 and P20 and just how slow Florsch is. She's already 3 seconds behind Sargent. Now, in terms of that hard strategy, cars at the front are going for it as well. Piastri is the only other one at the back. Bottas, Russell, Stroll, they'll all be pitting very early and then stuck in traffic, nowhere to go. Keeping an eye on Sargent here. I'm not doing anything special at the moment, but I'm trying to see just how close can we get to Albon down the start lane, down the start straight, and it's not great. Up the hill, clearly having a look, just 2/10 behind him, and not getting in a position to challenge. We will have to push to make something happen. In the meantime, let's go ahead and top up for about a lap.
So we touch the pack.
Now on lap 17 for us, 18 for the leaders. Already on the verge of getting lapped is Florsch, 27 seconds behind us, but Sargent fell back a little bit when we topped up, has recovered that ground, and is ready to make a push. Full-on attack. Can we do it? This is the place to do it. We're going to go up the inside of Sandovat, and the overtake is complete. Well done. Now I would expect we can drive away from here. We already have the advantage of pitting later as well. Big question is, can we get out of DRS range and eventually close up on Bottas? How much closer does he get, though, on the straight? Not too close. It's such a short straight, such a short DRS zone. I would think over the next lap we should be able to get Albon out of DRS range, and we have nearly done it. Right on a second. There you go, 1.2. 1.2 as we exit Casino Square, so that should do it. We've got Albon out of DRS range, and then we should be able to start closing up on Bottas. Florsch, meanwhile, just now coming through Casino Square. Russell, first to pit and has a pit stop issue, comes out behind us. This is why pitting later is going to matter, because as groups get held up in traffic, that's going to be a big deal. Russell gets on by Sargent quite easily, though. Wow. Talk about a pace difference. My, oh my. Bottas pits. Bottas pits early, gives us some clean air to run in for a while. We're already 10 seconds ahead of Albon, such as the pace difference between us. And Bottas is going to get caught up behind Albon for some time, hopefully. Hopefully he's not able to overtake him. Oh, Albon already pit, so he gets out of his way. Magnussen pits and comes out behind Sargent as well, so we're currently ahead of 4 cars, but all 4 of them have pit already. And meanwhile, this is Sargent coming up on Florsch. So we are already at that stage. Monaco, of course, small track. Once you start getting lapped, those blue flags just get nasty. Ocon, Hamilton, both pitting. Russell, Ocon both already have, but Tsunoda, Hülkenberg, Piastri could be cars that we are racing head-to-head with here at some stage. Potentially, if we can get ahead of them. If they can get caught up as they pit, we can get some clean air. It's going to take luck. We qualified 19th. We've literally passed 1 car. So right now, you would think we're in a virtual P18. You'd think Bottas is a car we could catch a pass on pace. But that might be it. We might be looking at a P18. Tsunoda into the pits. I would imagine we're close enough that we should be able to come away ahead. Maybe. We were just at the swimming pool. Come through La Rascasse. And we are coming out ahead. Tsunoda all the way down to P18 behind Bottas even. Wow. What the heck is going on there? Bottas has that much pace. The undercut is working. Verstappen into the pits. Comes out as the lead car, having already pit. Leclerc is the next one, then Stroll. Russell and Ocon have both made their way around Hülkenberg, but Hülkenberg is a ways ahead of us. He's coming around La Rascasse right now as we head into the swimming pool section and are just now reaching La Rascasse. That's quite the gap between us and Hülkenberg. So if we were to potentially try to compete with him, we've got a lot of ground to cover between here and the finish. Of course, a P20 Florsch isn't holding up traffic, which is kind of what I expected would happen. Well, not kind of. I knew that was going to happen. It would have been nice if we could have done something otherwise, but remember, we knew she was going to be so far off the pace and not competitive today that it just made sense to save the components, let her run to have experience, and that's it. Could actually just run her on conserve, but it doesn't matter as much. I guess there is the gearbox. We are getting close now, about 6 laps away from our pit stop. Norris, Alonso, Gasly all pitting. We are kind of waiting towards the tail end. It would have been nice if there was some sort of traffic jam somewhere else. Someone else holding somebody up, somebody with damage. There's been nothing. Not a single incident all race. Cut can be both helpful and can hurt you at this track. As we have Magnussen making his way through, but can Magnussen help drag us forward? We've been holding him up, but can he help speed us up? That would be the ideal scenario if we could stay within 1 second of him and get that little DRS boost, get that extra 2-3 tenths per lap. On the verge of being more than a second behind, and he's driven away quite quickly from us. We are the last car on the lead lap now. And those guys behind us mean that the leader Perez is just right there. We're going to get blue flagged here in a moment. And it looks like that's happening right now. Sargent now a lap down. And that pit stop's going to hurt. And we drop right down that order. Even Bottas is already ahead of us apparently. But it does get a little bit wonky with the pit position in between. 2 sections of the track really tight together. 2.411, not a great stop there. And we do get passed by someone there. Was that Albon? We're going to have to pass Albon again. And Florsch enters pit road for her stop. Let's hope for a faster one, as Sargent's was definitely a bit slow. 2.366, much better. Much better. Probably our best or second best stop of the entire season so far. Oh, hello. Bottas is behind us, by the way. Bottas pit again.
So what DRS?
And then we just blue flagged our way into getting passed by freaking everybody. Albon getting out of the way could be a problem for him, because there we are. Oh, we're going to stop and let him in? Really? We could have followed. We so could have followed right there. Yellow flags, yellow flags.
There's a big crash in
There's
the
a
main
crash.
straight.
First of the day.
There's probably a lot of debris on the start finish.
Oh, and it's
Let's take a look at
Verstappen.
Along the straight here.
Blue flags. Oh, he's coming up on...
Clearly unable to take evasive action. And that's one surefire way to put a dampener on your weekend.
That was not Florsch's fault. Oh, gosh, Verstappen still stopped in the middle of the road. It's cleared now, though.
Okay, there's a big crash. Be careful on start finish. A lot of debris.
Oh, we're going to get the overtake done anyway. Like we were about 7 behind him, 8 seconds behind him before, but being behind these two have really slowed us up. Cost us a good 4 or 5 seconds, but we do finally get ahead of both of them. And it does appear that there are going to be some cars going for a 2-stopper. We've seen at least 2 pit already. Not sure if anybody else will, though, looking at this. Albon. Albon's going to stop. About 1.1, give or take, for a lap. So we've covered off some of this, but definitely not all. We still have maybe 1.5 kilograms to go. Sargent, meanwhile, has covered off a couple seconds. Hülkenberg seems to be holding steady his position. I think we're a little bit too far back to really do anything here, but you never know. Especially if we are going to have to recover another kilogram worth of fuel. But here we are, catching up to an Aston Martin. It's either Alonso or Stroll, and they seem to be back to back, so I'm guessing it's Stroll. Yeah, 4 seconds behind. It is. So we have caught up to Stroll, and beating just one team today is not going to be sufficient. Again, if they kept our original goal of 8th place, we'd be just fine. Just fine. 9th would be satisfactory. 10th would be a problem. But with that raised goal of 7th, here we are, stuck with 8th is satisfactory, but 9th is not. But we are getting closer to those guys in front, now just 7.5 seconds behind. Hülkenberg also about 1.5 seconds closer. Lap 66 of 78, and just ahead now is Florsch. Just ahead of Florsch is Hülkenberg, who is now just 1.5 seconds behind Hamilton down in 15th, and then the AlphaTauris, then Magnussen. Our problem at the moment is, even if we do progress somehow and make an overtake, we're looking at a scenario of, yikes, difficult spot. Larascas, not a great place to do that. That cost us some time. But we just got Hülkenberg.
Let's see what happened.
And this might have had something to do with the Aston Martin and a blue flag.
It's there for the taking.
It does. It does. He gets blue flagged, accepts it down the straight, and we make the overtake happen. Lucky on that, following the Aston Martin has held us up. We would have been much faster. But can this make the overtakes possible for us? He is actively trying to overtake Show, and they come together. This happened right in front of us, folks.
What happened there?
There we are, just behind it. Hamilton's looking to overtake.
Oh,
Really?
cutting it so close.
Whose fault is that? Well, I guess, is he far enough up alongside to warrant the space? Some would argue no. Most would argue he's sufficiently alongside. So Hamilton, he's got a problem too. So he's dropping back. That's P15 for us now, and now all over the back of Show. we will look to overtake. He's got damage, so he should be easy, or might dive off into the pits. So the tail end of this lap, we are going to try to push and overtake him before Sandoval, which is right where Hamilton ran into his problem of trying to do the exact same thing and got slammed into the wall. But beating Zhou still puts us ahead of just one team. We have to catch Sonoda as well, and or Magnussen. All right, here we go. Full attack. Great exit. And that'll do it. Oh, no, it doesn't do it.
Let's have a look at that.
Wow.
Heading to Sandoval.
Sonoda absolutely
Now, there's
wipes
an
us
inviting
out.
opportunity there. And you can
Yeah,
see
he
how the
does.
cars come together. And they'll be
Wow, Sonoda takes out Hamilton and takes out Sargent. And we pick up the penalty. Hamilton picks up the penalty. In both occasions, Zhou is the one to blame.
Yes,
80% of the way past him, and we go into the corner. It's our corner.
Now.
It's our corner, and we gave him space anyway. Penalty system needs some work, that's for sure, but either way, no matter who gets the blame, it's ruined our race. At an inopportune time of the VSC that allows them to pull away a little bit. And we end up 3 seconds down now, trying to recover the additional loss here. So that's 8 seconds we've got to try to gain. How Zhou gets away with it twice, too. Absolutely beyond me. I get the first one, that he doesn't give Hamilton room. The corner was his. That corner was ours. And allowing for racing room, we allowed anyway. He hits us, and we get punished. All we've gained is half a second. Final lap, not happening. We're carrying damage, by the way, so
That's Leclerc.
it's understandable that we are
Charles
slow.
Leclerc is today's winner.
Boys, it.
Serve. Leclerc takes the win ahead of Perez and Verstappen. Verstappen still manages to get P3 despite crashing on his own accord. Sargent ends up P16, absolutely having his race destroyed by Zhou Guanyu. Sophia Florsch does get P19 as a result, but we were absolutely in conserve mode for her, so never mind her slow pace. But Sargent today, so screwed over on that. Did start from P19, does recover to P16. That's still not a bad day, but P14 is what he earned and should have been closing up on Sonoda in those final laps, maybe contesting for P13. Probably not getting there, but giving it a go. So really disappointing end to that race. Plus all that damage. Side pods at the very least. If we're lucky, that's all it is. That was a brand new side pod, though. We just replaced it entering this race. That sucks. That really sucks, but we do have some new side pods on the way, so I suppose not that big of a deal on that part. But in the points, Verstappen leads from Perez, Leclerc, Sainz. We're still very much down there. 16th for Sargent. In the constructors, Red Bull on top of Ferrari and then Aston Martin. Haas and AlphaTauri with those single points. We have got to do something to get a point at some stage or two. If we can get a 9th or 10th place finish, it puts us back in the running for that 7th place. Haas seem a little harder to get, but right now, those two are pretty close to each other, both struggling, and we are right there. We are close. I think it's possible that we can get them before the end of the season, but for now, stuck in P9. Florsch, 7th quickest pit stop today, so we add a few points there. We've got 40 now on the season, just behind Alpine in 6th. I'm happy with that progress at least, and the car's keeping up pace-wise with the back end of the grid. Sargent, he's a little slow, but that was so not his fault, so unlucky today. But that is going to do it for this episode. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.